I've been researching Gardner's library for several years. As you walk around the museum, you might not realise that you're actually walking through a library as well as an art collection. Isabella's passion for collecting began with books. In fact, the library at the museum could be considered her gateway to the art collection. This letter was written to her by Charles Eliot Norton. He was the first professor of art history at Harvard and a very good friend of hers. In this letter, he writes to tell her of very early and rare editions of Dante's Divine Comedy were coming up for sale. She wrote a letter of gratitude to him, and she said, "Books, I fear, are a most fascinating and dangerous pursuit, but one full of pleasure." One of the main things that attracted Gardner to certain books were their history, who'd owned them in the past. This book, it's the prayer book of Mary, Queen of Scots, who was queen of the Stewart dynasty. Gardner believed that she was descended from the Stuarts, and she was very interested in women rulers of the past, especially those who had been art patrons and book collectors as well. In this little Venetian manuscript, there are a series of inscriptions of previous owners of the book. Gardner added her name and the date and the words "mine now." Here we are in the McKnight room on the ground floor, and it has a large bookcase in it containing some of Gardner's personal books. They were written by authors whom she knew, who she was close to. We can imagine her thumbing through the pages of these books and reading them for her own pleasure. I invite you to the Long Gallery of the museum, which is on the 3rd floor. The rarest and oldest books in the museum are in the Dante case, and she named this case after her favourite medieval author. Gardner also bought this book, a copy of the famous Hypnerotomachia Polyphili. It's considered one of the most beautiful books ever printed because of the balance of its images and text. And she published 2 catalogues of her book collection. And you'll notice here that on the title page of her catalogues, she reproduces a woodcut of a fountain from the Hypnerotomachia Polyphili. The book is about a man's sleep-induced quest for his beloved. He wanders into this female-only realm, punctuated by architectural marvels and masterpieces of art. And I have a personal theory that this book inspired a major feature in the museum. It's often been noticed that there are only female imagery in the courtyard. And all of the female statues, they make this kind of symphony of female beauty and drapery in it, which is very similar to the woodcut in the book. There's a striking similarity between this Roman throne and the throne which the Queen sits on, and we know that Gardner also used to sit in this throne at times and look at her creation. This photograph was taken at the home of an art collector, and I think it's a reminder from her to us that she was also a reader and a lover of books as well as an art collector.